from the 7th District of Virginia. He's the Republican whip there in the House. Congressman Eric Cantor. Good morning, Mr. Cantor. How are you?
I'm doing great. I know my constituents feel relieved that you'll say I'm not a skunk.
Well, they've elected you how many times there? 5 times? So they must like you. How'd you like the president's speech last night?
Well, I'm so curious to see what you think, Imus. I'll tell you what I think. This speech was an opportunity for the president to really regain a little bit of confidence in terms of what he's trying to do. I just think he missed an opportunity. There has been a wave of public outcry now against what this president's agenda is about, and it's pretty extraordinary last night to see him pretty much discount public opinion. In my career here in Washington, I've not seen an administration that feels it can just ignore public opinion the way that this administration feels it can.
I sort of get the impression he just doesn't want to quit, doesn't want to give in, just wants to be hard-headed about it. But, man, he seems tone-deaf to me. So.
I mean, you got to think that. I mean, here we've seen in this country since August, the number one issue that has been in the public debate has been health care. Number one, that's sort of a disconnect because we know most people care about jobs and getting back to work, but it's been health care that this White House has been focused on. So it took 45 minutes approximately for the president to reach that discussion, and there was absolutely no nod to the voters of Massachusetts, Virginia, or New Jersey, no recognition that his plan is very unpopular, and all he said was, it is my fault for not explaining what I'm doing better because my way is right, and Congress, you better act. Now, that is not the way to lead when you've got a country that's so dissatisfied.
Most of the great speeches in the history of the world took about 10 minutes, most of them. An hour and 10 minutes. If it takes you an hour and 10 minutes to explain to the American people that you don't get it, I mean, there's something wrong on both ends there, so.
There's almost a triple disconnect there, but the speech in a way it was all over the place. In some instances he said he wanted to fight spending, freeze spending, but then he'd proceed to announce program after program of more spending. He'd talk about the need to provide small businesses access to credit, and then the next thing you know, he's taxing the banks. There's plenty of contradiction in the speeches, and I just don't think the public came away with a sense of where Washington is headed. And so once again, the public is scratching its head about, where's the leadership?
I don't pretend to understand all of this, but maybe you can help me out here. But what would be wrong with taking this money that the banks are paying back, give small businesses tax credits and so on? Wouldn't that create jobs or no?
Well, first of all, in the TARP program, we absolutely ought to get every cent of that back. But then we ought to pay it back to the taxpayers because the TARP money was only there for an emergency over a year ago when the capital markets almost collapsed. And that was where that money came from. It was borrowed, and we ought to pay it back. Now, when the president announced that he was for cutting capital gains for investment in small businesses, that's an extension of existing law. I fully support that. We ought to be doing more of that. But I think where we really have a problem right now, if you're talking to the small businesses out and across the communities in this country, they're saying, look, I don't know where Washington's going next. I know that I'm going to have imposed health care mandates on me. I know I'm going to have the prospects of higher taxes at the end of this year because this administration is going to let all the tax cuts that have been in place go out. I know that we've got this so-called cap and trade bill in front of us that's going to impose a national energy tax. I know I've got a card check bill that I need to worry about because perhaps my workforce is going to be forced to unionize. These are all things that don't really lend themselves to helping small businesses start to hire again.
We're talking with Representative Eric Cantor from Virginia. It's 18 till they aren't. The president has a health care plan. I mean, the one the Democrats support, that most Americans, at least in these polls, seem to suggest that they don't want. But he's got to do better, I think, than just challenging you guys to come up with one, or does he?
Well, listen. I mean,
what do you guys have?
This is sort of another point that confounds me. I mean, listen. Republicans have put forth the proposals on health care, on job creation, on energy, but yet you heard the president stand up last night and accuse Republicans of being obstructionists out of purely political reasons. Now, first of all, we haven't been obstructionists because we've been in opposition to, as you say, programs the public just does not like, and we have in turn presented alternatives. But let's back up for a second. Republicans in the House, we've got 178 members. We can't stop anything. So, again, there was this blame game going on without the responsibility, I think, lying where it is, which is the president needs to actually come back to the middle and respond to the public and what he's trying to do.
When they have these speeches and you all gather there in the chamber, do you sit in your normal seat or?
Well, in the House, there's really no normal seat. There is, we have a system where when we have votes, folks just congregate wherever they like, and if we're on there for a long period of time, people will take a seat in the chamber. But in a official ceremonial speech such as this, the Republican leadership, and I'm the whip, I sit right next to the leader, so there is an assigned seat. That is correct.
What does a whip do?
Well, listen, that's up to interpretation, but a whip, this is the name that came from the Parliament in England, and it first came and was derived from the individual who rode horses in a fox hunt to whip the hounds into shape as they were chasing the fox. So the analogy is a loose one, but it may be applied to trying to corral votes. So the whip is charged with doing that, with sort of corralling the votes, making sure that you know where your members are going to be when it comes time to actually taking the vote.
Did you ever give us your 5 favorite songs? Did anybody ever ask you? Or?
I think I gave you our 5 favorite songs.
How come we don't have them, Lou? I don't see them in a sheet.
I don't see them either, and I never got them.
I don't think we got them.
Well, we're gonna resubmit those.
Oh, no, we do have them. Lately, only Journey, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Rainbow, Billy Joel.
There
right?
you go.
It's not bad. So, what did you think of the president scolding the Supreme Court? What was that all about?
Well,
never seen that.
Well, it's interesting. The president says to the country, he says, "I'm going to fight, and we're going to get back in the game and fight." I think what none of us thought was he meant he's going to fight the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
We saw the justices nodding in disapproval. But look, I mean, the fact that that's even news this morning, while we've got these huge issues at hand here, we've got a major, 2 major wars going on. We've got terrible domestic economy. We got the healthcare debacle. How is it now that we're coming away with this point after a State of the Union address? And it just seemed that the speech last night, the president's focus was not there.
Well, that's not his fault. That's nitwits like me asking you about it. You can't blame that on him. No, that's some morons like me asking that kind of idiotic question. So
yeah, I'm giving you a little bit more credit, Imus.
You shouldn't. All right, man. It's always nice to have you on. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Always good to be with you. Bye-bye.